Een warm applaus voor Niels Olivier.
First of all, thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure. I did say I was going to do the presentation in Dutch, but it was on a website that it would be in English, so I'm not sure if there are any English people in the room, but I can do it in English as well.
Yes.
Okay. Just for you, I'm going to do it in English. So if you cannot understand the slides, then I'll try to do my best to explain them in English. Yeah, we're going to talk about server-side tracking and consent situations today. But first of all, who am I? My name is Niels Olivier. I'm the founder, one of the founders of Taggers. We started 2 years ago. Before that, I was doing a lot of online marketing campaigns, and within these campaigns, I noticed that yeah, we could not track all the data that we wanted to, and also privacy situations were changing rapidly. So we had to adjust our way of tracking, and back then there were very few options to do it in a way that's friendly most for marketeers. So we started Taggers. It's been quite a ride so far. We've been able to onboard more than 7,000 customers within 2 years, so internationally. So that's quite a lot. And yeah, along the way we learned a lot of things, and those things I wanted to talk about today. So yeah, mostly. So this is the Dutch part. So mostly what's happening today is that we see yeah, things changing in the way that we look at privacy, and also the way it's regulated. Most of you probably know the story of Kruidvat. They got fined with a 600,000 euro fine for not yeah, adhering to the privacy regulations. Well, it's of course privacy has a lot of things to take into account, but Kruidvat was doing the absolute worst in that sense, and they got 3 warnings and then they got fined for it. But that's not the only thing. We also see last 2 years we see discussions whether Google Analytics was prohibited, would be prohibited in the Netherlands or in the European Union. There were discussions on that because the data is being transferred to the US. So a lot of discussions and regulations came into place, and we now live in a world where we have to adjust to that as well. It's not like a free place to play anymore as it was years ago. So yeah, a lot of things changing, and today we're going to discuss what those changes mean for you as a company, and how you can adjust to it. But before we get into that, there's a small list of topics what we want to discuss. So the cookie banners, where data loss comes from, so what's impacting your data, server-side tracking, what it means and what it can do for you for your organization, and how you can set it up. But before we get into that, I want to do a small quiz with you, because I was once in the school too, and I had to sit and listen to 4 years to a lot of talks, and I know that if you can make it a little bit more interaction, then it's much more fun. So we have 5 questions, and yeah, it's a hand raise or not type of situation. So if you agree to the question, then raise your hand, and otherwise keep them down. So the first question is, in Holland it's necessary that you have a cookie banner on your website in all instances. So if you agree to that, you can raise your hand, and if you say no, it's not necessary by law, then you can keep your hand down. Okay, so let's say 10% thinks it is necessary in every situation. Well, it's not. So most of you got it right. It's the way you use your website. So it's about the data you collect. So and the cookies you use. So if you use personal data on your website, if you track personal data, for example, IP addresses or unique identifiers or front name, last name, all those kind of data, then you need a cookie banner. And also if you use cookies that are not purely for the functionality of your website, which is almost every website, but it's not by law necessary. Second one, a cookie banner is only necessary if you use third-party cookies. Who agrees? So this is a good one because it is everyone is right in this case. It's not about the type of cookies, it's about the data you want to collect. So yeah, whether you use first party or third party cookies doesn't matter in this situation. So even if you use server-side tracking, you still need to use a cookie banner. Then we go more into the practical situations. If you look at the following cookie banner, the question is it allowed to use this cookie banner on your website based on the AVG, so the Dutch privacy regulation. And it's the one from Social Deal, and this is the cookie banner they use. Who thinks this cookie banner is legal by law? Still, it was the easy one because of course it's not allowed, because you always have to have a way of denying your cookies, which is not the case. And well, of course it's a big company, so you can see that a lot of companies play around with privacy, but it's not allowed. Next one, is this one allowed? This is from a Belgian website. And they charge you if you deny cookies. Who thinks this is allowed? two people? Well, this is like a typical gray area of the law. I think if it goes to court, it won't be allowed, because it's basically pay to play, and that makes privacy something that's for the rich, which is not the case. So if it comes to court, it would probably be not regulated. This is also, for example, what Radar uses as well. So this is the type of way companies play with privacy. Next one, NS, the train company. Who thinks this cookie banner is allowed? Great, yeah. This one is the one that should be this way. So yeah, if I look at the level, I prepared three presentations, and you're all on a very high level, so we can go into a lot of depth today. Yeah, so if you look at the banner, these are the 9 things that autoriteit persoonsgegevens says the cookie banner should be should be like. So you have to give information about the purpose of your tracking. You have to not automatically say we're going to track your data. You have to be clear and concise in what you tell in the banner. You have to list all the options on the same level, as you can see below. You cannot hide certain options. You cannot say, if you agree, are you sure, or if you deny, are you sure. So you have to be one click, and that's it. You cannot hide certain links in there as well, and you always have to have the option to retrieve your consent, which is the case. And of course, the last one is, and this is a bit more technical, but some cookies are used for example, security reasons, and for those cookies you don't need to ask permission, but all the other cookies that are used for analytics or marketing, they should be asked with a cookie banner. So NS is the only example that does it right. Yeah, and what does it mean? What is the impact that the cookie banner has on the tracking of your website? So, and if I mean the impact, it's mostly on, for example, GA4 or on Google Ads or on Meta. Because if you deny the in the cookie banner, it will not only deny the cookies but also the tracking that goes along with it. And so if a lot of people click deny, you have a lot of data loss. And within our software we track the data loss that you face due to the cookie banner. And this is a small example of what we see happening. For example, if you have the cross in the right upper corner, if you delete the cross, then you'll see the acceptance rate is a lot higher than if you keep the cross. So this has because if you click on the cross, then it won't track the data. So it's the same as clicking on deny. So just by tweaking the cookie banner a little bit within the regulations, you can already see what's happening with your data. The cookie banner has a lot of the highest impact on your overall tracking. So it's worth checking out what your cookie banner does with your website. So this is, of course, this year with Google saying a good cookie banner is mandatory, and it's called consent mode because they are under a lot of pressure as well from privacy regulators, and they said in March, I think it was, that you need to have a good consent situation on your website, otherwise you cannot use some functionalities in Google. So we actually saw in March, we saw a lot of a high increase in the amount of websites that set up their cookie banner the right way. And this is what you saw happening. You can see here that the blue line is the tracking that you can do in the old situation, and the orange line is the tracking that's the 100% line. So you saw that before this company implemented a cookie banner, there was a difference of around 11% of the trackable data. So the blue line represents 90% of the data that's being tracked. And after the implementation of the cookie banner, there was a 60% data difference. So you can actually see what the impact was of implementing a cookie banner. So there's a lot of data loss. And yeah, of course, Google and Facebook or Meta, I have to say, but all other advertising platforms, it really hurts their business model. So they're trying to do everything they can to get back as much data as they can, because that's their mechanism to have a good ad campaigns. So Google came up with the consent mode, and in which they model back some of the lost data. And this is like a really technical image of how it works, but basically the ones that click on deny on the cookie banner, you cannot track their data, but they can model it, a percentage of it back, so that you can measure more conversions and more data in GA4. But it's really a Google situation, and of course other companies have to respond as well. So it's not 100% that you can model it back, and it's also not for smaller companies. But yeah, if we look at this was only the cookie banner part, but there's also the part of the 10% of the 11% that you saw that was already missing. And the question is, where comes the missing part of what's the missing part of that? Well, that's mostly ad blockers and browser blocking. So, for example, Safari uses in terms of browsers, and also there are a lot of ad blockers going around. So you see that that's the data part that's caused by that. This is the technical part. So what actually is happening is that when you have a website, and most companies use Google Tag Manager to put all the software they want to track in Google Tag Manager, and all data is transferred through the browser, and within the browsers they can block certain types of data and certain types of cookies, which are ad blockers and browser blockers, which are causing that. So that's why with standard tracking, which most companies use, there's a part of missing data there, which is on browser's own initiative. And the other way you can use is server-side tracking. So what you'll see is that this type of tracking is based on a first party, in a first party context because it's hosted on your own website, but it's also tracked through the server, which allows you to collect more data and have more control over that data and where you want to send it to. But it also, because it's hosted on your website, you can also set first-party cookies, which have other regulations than third-party cookies. So combining those makes it that you can track more data and do it in a more sustainable, privacy-friendly way. So the best thing you can do is optimize your cookie banner and set up server-side tracking, because that allows you to have the best data tracking at the moment. Some of the advantages of server-side tracking, the first thing is you're back in control because you collect your own data. So within usually you have one Google Tag Manager account, but with server-side tracking you have two Google Tag Manager containers, and within the second container, which is called the server container, that's the place where you collect all the data and you can send it wherever you want. So you're in control and not Google or not Facebook that is collecting the data for you. But this system allows you to add information, for example, from your CRM system, but it also allows you to hide certain information. For example, if you're a health company and you don't want to track IP addresses, you can keep them out of the tracking in this space, so they won't reach Google Ads or Facebook in this case. Also, it can increase your web speed, especially for companies that have a lot of tracking in Google Tag Manager, because within regular Google Tag Manager, all the scripts are placed in the browser, as you can see here. With server-side tracking, it's just one script, and the other tracking is handled within the server environment. So your website doesn't have to load in all the unnecessary scripts in this case. So it can have a positive effect on your SEO as well. Your data becomes more accurate. You can see here the additional data that is being measured. In this case it's 19%. That makes sure that you measure more conversions, more page view data, more sessions, which is crucial for good understanding of your marketing. And the last one is, and this is something that we hold very highly, is that you can choose your server location within our software, so that you can say, I want to collect my data in this country and not send it to the US. A lot of corporates have regulations in place that they don't want to have the data out of the European Union, for example. Well, this is a way to make sure that the data isn't collected in the US in this case. For who is it? Which companies are most attracted by server-side tracking? We see a lot of e-commerce because it has a real impact on the ROI. If you track more data, your campaigns will run better. We saw, I cannot mention the name, but we saw with one company we did some tests, and they had like a 20% improvement in data in taggers, and it resulted in a 6% higher ROI on their Google Ads. So that's quite on that scale. It was quite a high impact. So e-commerce is really has a lot of benefits there. We also see B2B because they want also with a collection of leads. It tracks more conversions and delivers better results in the ad campaigns. And last one is, we say it's healthcare, but it can be a broader category, also semi-governments or any privacy-friendly company type, organization type, because it allows you to not send all the data to Google and Facebook. For example, IP addresses is something that cannot always be sent for certain companies, but also certain personal data that you don't want to have in the tracking. So these are the companies that are mostly using server-side tracking. So small recap on the benefits. It gives you more data, so you can measure more conversions, and also the campaigns will run better. It increases the speed of your website, and it increases also the control that you have on your tracking. You won't have to send all the data, and you can collect it wherever you want. So combine this with a good cookie banner. That's the way forward, because if you have the users of your website are in control whether they want to have their data being collected or not. And with server-side tracking, you maximize your output of the data you are allowed to collect. Then the question is how to set it up. Basically, you need four things. You need to inlog to your website. You need a hosting company for server-side tracking. You need Google Tag Manager, and you need a good cookie banner software. What we see in the Netherlands is that almost 80% uses Cookiebot versus or user-centrics is what they call it now. But the market is changing because it's a bit high-priced model. So you see more startups coming up in the cookie banner space as well. But still most use Cookiebot for it. Then setting up hosting. Of course, you can use Stackers, but there are also other options like Google Cloud or State that you can use. That's what you need. Then Google Tag Manager speaks for itself, and the website. Now, because we're in a WordPress situation here, we developed a plugin for WordPress, which allows you to set up a data layer and your tracking script really fast. Still waiting on WordPress to say listed in the plugin section, but hopefully that will be very soon. So that makes it fast to set it up in WordPress. And the last thing you need to do is set it up in Google Tag Manager. You can see here the two different types of containers that you need. The first, in the bottom, the one is you're probably familiar to. That's the one where you usually put in all your tracking tags. And if you go server side, you need another container in Google Tag Manager, which is called the server container. And you can see that on the left side of it, there are some additional options there, mostly to transform your data, for example, and also to make changes or delete something out of it. So those are the things you need. And I think I managed to do it within the time. So this is what server-side tracking is.
You certainly managed to do it within time. 25 minutes. That's fast. That's fast. Professional.
Hopefully it wasn't too fast.
Not only in speed skating.
It's a long time ago.
Well, thank you, thank you. Any questions? Yes. Thijs.
Thank you for your story, Niels. Just wondering, is there any negative impact of server-side caching or services like Cloudflare on the service you provide?
No negative known to us at this point. We do see that if you have, for example, website caching, and you have, if you have a lot of tracking data and a lot of different tags installed, that it becomes harder to find probable causes of if the tracking doesn't work really well. But if you set it up the right way, there are no problems to us. Yeah.
Next question over here.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I was wondering, you mentioned that by using server-side tracking, you're more in control of the data. However, I see that you're still utilizing the tag manager on the server side. How does that come with having more control over your data if in the end you're still using tag manager the same as if you would when you're using the client side implementation?
Yeah, it's more the way the data is being collected. So in this case, our servers are collecting the data and it's hosted on your own website. So it's in a first-party context that you collect the data, and the Google Tag Manager server container is used as a front end of the data that goes through the system, and then from there you decide if you want to send the data to GA4 or to Google Ads, for example. So it's only in the last stage that you decide where the data is going through, and it's not collected first by Google or early in the trajectory.
How easy is it to convert an existing tag manager account to server-side tracking, since you need two containers?
Yeah.
I expected with first experimenting with server-side tracking that I couldn't import a tag manager account into a server-side tracking.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what's the catch on that?
Yeah, it's a very good question because it's also one of our biggest challenges to make it more accessible, so that when you have an existing tracking situation, which almost every company has, we want to automatically make the switch to server side. But the first 80% is easy, but the last 20% is really hard because you have all different situations of organizations that run the tracking. So we're experimenting with different ways to do that. Automations that automatically set up a server container, for example. But also we see, for example, that Facebook is doing conversion gateways in which you can use your existing pixel and run it server side. So a bit of technical answer, but this is the one thing we're really focused on at the moment.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. What if a company uses taggers but doesn't use a cookie banner, or the cookie banner isn't sufficient? Who's responsible for sending the data? Because as a customer, you don't want your data being sent, and when there's no cookie banner, the data is being sent and you don't even know it's being sent. Before you could say, hey, I use an ad blocker or cookie blocker and your data is not being sent. Is taggers responsible for that because you're providing a service? Or is the customer responsible because they don't have a cookie banner or a good cookie banner?
In the end, the customer is always responsible for their own tracking, for their own website. The changes that Google made is that if there's no consent, then they won't be able to process that data as well. So that's the changes they made on their side to adjust to privacy laws as well. So if you don't have a cookie banner and you do want to track data for your analytics or for your campaigns, then what you will see is that you have a big data loss. So it's actually better to have a cookie banner in that case than not. But in the end, the customer is responsible for the cookie situation. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Still questions? No. Well, thank you, Niels, for your beautiful presentation. I'm pretty sure that many people really liked what you were talking about.